So Congress has completely stalled out on the next round of stimulus. Or has it? On September 15th, 50 legislators got together in the House of Representatives and put together the next proposal for a potential stimulus package. I'm going to tell you all about it in today's episode. I'm Joshua Roberts, attorney at law, and you are watching Lawyer Up. Today we're going to be talking about the newest stimulus package proposal that was just put together in Congress. We're going to talk about a little bit of the history of the stimulus packages and proposals, and then we're going to talk about what's in this one, and most importantly, whether you can expect a stimulus check in your future. If you enjoy this episode, hit that like button. If you got something to say or you have a question, put it in the comment section below. If you want more content like this or in legal areas, then subscribe to the channel. And as always, I love it when you share me on social media. So let's do a quick recap of what has happened in our country. Now, we all know in February, COVID hit and the whole world went to pot, right? Stay-at-home orders. The country is shut down in a lot of different places. So in March, we have the CARES Act. It's passed by the House, it's passed by the Senate, it's signed into law by President Trump. This was a $3 trillion stimulus package. The highlights of this package included, of course, the unemployment compensation. The federal government added $600 a week on top of state unemployment benefits to help those workers who were out of work. We also had the PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program, where we had forgivable loans that were given to small businesses to help them stay afloat. And maybe most importantly, we had the $1,200 stimulus checks that were sent out to individuals who qualified financially, as well as additional amounts for children or dependents of these individuals. Now, from there, we moved forward and we moved into May, and it was still somewhat sluggish. So the Democrats came out with what they called the HEROES Act. This was a $3.4 trillion bill. It passed the House of Representatives, but it was shot down by the Republicans because they called it too robust. It was too much spending, too soon. We needed to see how the CARES Act basically fleshed out. Well, from that point forward, it became a realization that something else needed to be done. So in July, the Republicans came up with their own bill. It was a $1 trillion package called the HEALS Act. Well, the Democrats shot that down because they said it wasn't robust enough. It wasn't big enough. So that was over. So after the HEALS Act was shot down, then Congress went on summer break. And they seemed to forget about stimulus packages at all. When they came back into session, they were talking about issues with George Floyd and police reform. And then it switched to the United States Postal Service and could they handle the absentee ballot issue relative to the next presidential election. And it seemed like Congress had completely forgotten about any type of stimulus measure. So when we move to August, we have Donald Trump taking matters into his own hand. And we have 4 new executive orders. Those orders included, one was a payroll tax cut for workers. Now, the benefit of this potential tax cut has been called into question because in essence, it was a deferment as written, meaning that you didn't have to pay all of your payroll tax in 2020, but that it would then become due in 2021 without additional legislation. So the jury's still out on that particular executive order and benefit. He also, President Trump, under executive order, extended benefits for unemployment. Now there was going to be a $400 additional benefit per week for unemployed workers, with the federal government picking up $300 of that and each state picking up $100. The next executive order stayed or stopped student loan payments. Now, again, they weren't forgiven. They were just taken from the month they were due and added on to the end of the loan period. So you still owed the money, you just didn't have to pay for it during the time of the executive order. And the last executive order extended the freeze on evictions of tenants of what would be landlords who received any type of federal funding or any federal programs for housing. Those evictions were stayed for a period of time. But since then, we have seen nothing, absolutely nothing out of Congress of any substance until now. In mid-September, a group of representatives got together. They called themselves the Problem Solvers Caucus. And this is 25 Republicans and 25 Democrats who have put together a new proposal. This package is a $1.5 trillion package. So it's not as big as the $3 trillion package that the Democrats have proposed, but it's bigger than the $1 trillion package that the Republicans had previously put forward. And the specifics of this proposal are interesting. It would extend unemployment benefits at $450 additional per week for the next 8 weeks. And then that would be followed by $600 a week for the following 5 weeks, getting us into 2021. Now, the one caveat to that is that no one could make more money on unemployment than they were making prior to at their previous job. So there would be an investigation into whether you're making more money by not working than you had when you worked before. There would be $300 billion set aside for small business aid. And this would be the PPP program being extended to allow those businesses that were the hardest hit to go back in and get a second PPP loan that would also be forgivable. There would be $150 billion for school and childcare to help them defray the increased costs of masks, of cleaning supplies, of plexiglass dividers, and those types of additional expenses that our schools have had to incur by going back to seated classes. There would be $500 billion sent to state and local governments to help them deal with testing, local testing, and also contact tracing to hire people who can call and inform the community when there's been an outbreak or there's been a case of someone infected with COVID-19. There was also $400 million to be set aside to help local governments conduct elections, specifically the presidential election, in a safe manner where people would be assured of a clean and disinfected voting booth or a voting environment. In that package, there was also several billion for healthcare initiatives in any hotspot area that might pop up, and also to help distribute vaccines when that becomes available. And in that package, there was an additional stimulus check, another $1,200 to go out to qualifying individuals, and another $500 for any dependent. Doesn't have to be a kid. If you have a parent or some other family member living with you, you could potentially qualify for an extra $500 for that person. Now, the timing of this under this package is looking like January, and it's only triggered if there are certain economic factors in play, most importantly, a sluggish economy. However, the act does contemplate an additional round of stimulus money to you. There are a few other little items that are a little bit quirky, including expanding rural broadband, extending the 2020 census to make sure we got an accurate count, and also money for the Postal Service to make sure they can handle the absentee ballot issue with the upcoming presidential election. So the $100 million question is, will it pass? And the answer is, who knows? When 50 legislators get together to do something across the aisle, it's just Republicans and Democrats, that will garner the attention of Congress. And those people who are up for re-election are pushing to do something for the American people so that they can turn back and say, hey, look what I did for you. Those that are not up for re-election, they're not inclined to do anything right now. They want to see how the presidential election turns out before they take any action. So will we see something prior to the presidential election? Well, you'll just have to stay tuned to find out. That's the latest update on the potential for an additional round of stimulus money. I hope you have enjoyed the episode. If so, hit that like button. If you have a question or a comment, put it in the comment section below. If you would like to get more information and stay up to date on any type of stimulus action from Congress, then subscribe to the channel. And as always, I love it when you share me on social media. My name is Joshua Roberts, attorney at law, and you've been watching Lawyer Up.
Send lawyers, guns, and money. Dad, get me out of this.